Okay, January 31st, 2025. That's the deadline for filing 1099 NECs with the IRS. So I'm going to talk about who needs to file it, why do you need to file it, what kind of penalties you can face. Now, this 1099 issue, I think we're going to face it if you sent money to somebody in 2024 or if you received money from somebody in 2024. So either way, I think people are going to run into trouble. More than likely, it might even cause some tax return to get audited, and it's going to be a mess. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So try to avoid as much of that confusion as possible. So first of all, let's break it down this way. First, we'll talk about if you sent somebody a money, and then we'll talk about what if you receive money. So how do you typically send money? Well, you might have paid somebody cash. You might have paid them via check. You might have paid them via money order. You might have paid them via crypto, or you might have paid them via credit card. Maybe you paid them via Zelle. Maybe you paid them via third-party app like Venmo or something like that. So there's just so many different ways we pay to people these days. And whether you need to file 1099 NEC or not will depend on multiple factors. So number one factor you got to remember is, did you pay somebody more than $600? If you said yes, and now that's not one single transaction, it's a total amount over 1 year. So as long as within 1 year, if you paid them $600 or more, now you're required to file 1099 NEC. So that's requirement number one. Number two is, the person you paid that money to, are they individual, like a contractor or freelancers, or are they a corporation? So are they S Corp or C Corp? Because if they're a corporation, then once again, you don't need to file 1099 NEC. But if they're an individual, then yes, you do need to file 1099 NEC. So how are you going to find out if they are a corporation or individual? Well, you got to ask them. They need to provide you paperwork that clearly states that who they are. And this is your requirement. Before you pay anybody for product or services, you are supposed to get that form, because only then you can protect yourself in case of an audit. If audit happens and somebody was an individual, but they reported themselves as an S Corp or C Corp, at least you have a paperwork to show that you did your due diligence. If you have nothing, you just made a payment and did not report to IRS, guess what? That's on you. You're going to get in trouble. So that's number two. Number three, that payment. What was that payment for? Was that for a gift, or was that for some product or service? If it was for a gift, then you don't need to report it. You're good. But if it was for product or service, now you are required to report it because you paid them. And lastly, perhaps the most important factor is, how did you pay them? If you paid them with cash, check, money order, crypto, Zelle, all of these options, you are responsible for filing 1099 NEC. But if you paid them via credit card, or you paid them through third-party apps, and how do you know if those third-party apps are going to report the 1099 NEC? Well, take a look at when you send the money, it should be asking you, is that money as a gift, or is that money for product or service? So a good example would be a PayPal. So if I make a payment to somebody, let's say you, via PayPal, PayPal was going to ask me, what is this money for? Is that a gift, or is that for some product or service? Obviously, I'm going to say product or service. Now, PayPal will file the 1099 NEC directly. So I don't have to worry about it. PayPal got that covered. But only if I selected the option that that payment was for product or service. If I missed that option, that means, as far as PayPal is concerned, that payment was a gift. And if that payment was gift, they are not going to file 1099 NEC. But guess what? You are still responsible for filing 1099 NEC. So that's where it gets nasty. Credit cards, again, that option is not even there. Whenever you're paying somebody via credit card, we automatically assume it's for product or service. So you're good there. And then there are apps like Zelle. Well, Zelle doesn't ask you anything. Because it doesn't ask you anything, we have to assume that is a gift. So if it's a bank app like Zelle and it doesn't ask you for whether it's product or service or a gift, we have to assume that it's a gift and no 1099 NEC. So if you paid somebody via Zelle and it was more than $600, guess what? Who is responsible for filing 1099 NEC now? It's you. It's your responsibility. If you paid them via PayPal and you picked that it was a gift, then once again, it is your responsibility to file 1099 NEC. Why? Because PayPal is not going to file it. But if you paid somebody via credit card, or you pick an option that payment is for some product or service, then that relieves you of requirement to file 1099 NEC. Personally speaking, always pay via credit card. As long as you pay with credit card, you don't have to worry about this. Whether it's your gardener or your cleaner, whatnot, don't Zelle them the money, pay them with credit card. You pay them with credit card, it takes that problem away. If you don't, if you pay them via check or Zelle or something like that, now that headache is on you. So that's number one. This is if you sent that money. And like I said, the penalties for not filing is anywhere between $60 to $630. So it is serious. And by the way, it is possible that you need to file multiple 1099 NEC as well. For example, let's assume that you were doing some gardening work and maybe you had 10 gardeners coming to clean up your yard and stuff. And each one of them were paid $5,000 each. Maybe the total work was $25,000, or maybe it was a contractor doing some tile work or something else. And you have multiple people involved. And if you made those payments to each individual, now if you just made a payment to the contractor, then you only need to file one. But if you are making those payments to each individual, now you need to file multiple 1099 NECs, and there is a penalty for each failure to file. So it can quite add up really, really fast. I mean, I can imagine some of you guys might be new in business right now, or maybe you're a foreigner, maybe you're running some business from a different country and you forget about this rule. And next thing you know is you're getting a big tax liability for $6,000, $10,000, which you could have easily avoided had you known the rule. So there you go. That's what you need to do if you sent somebody a payment in 2024. Now, this is where it gets tricky. It is possible that you might receive a 1099 as well. And that would happen if you receive some money. So how would you have received some money? Maybe you drove some Lyft or Uber or some of these other third-party systems these days. If you work for any of those for a few hours, you are going to receive 1099. So I think that one you're going to say, okay, I understand that. I get that. But then there are some that you might not understand. For example, maybe you sold a couch on eBay, or you sold your old iPhone on some third-party website. Or for that matter, maybe you sold your iPhone on a Craigslist or to your neighbor or whatnot. In all of those cases, you are supposed to receive a 1099. So that's where it gets tricky. Now that you receive the 1099, we need to do proper accounting for that. We need to figure out how much was that an income and how much of that was a business expense. So that's why it's critical that if you do receive 1099 this year, then you do talk to a tax professional and let them help you with it. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It opens up a door for a side hustle. It opens up a door to show you as a business and gives you an opportunity to do many things that you were not able to do before. For example, maybe set up a 401k, maybe put money in your retirement plans like Roth, IRAs, or pension plans or something like that. All depends upon how much income you have. Maybe set up a health savings plan for medical, and so many more things that you can do once you become a 1099. So I'm not against it. It's a pretty cool thing. All I'm saying is if you get one, you need to properly account for it. All right. So don't be surprised if you get one. Lastly, I'm going to leave you with this. It is possible that in 2024, a lot of people will get wrong 1099s. Why? Because it's new, to many people. Somebody who just had starting out a new company, they don't realize, they don't know how they properly file the 1099, and they might make a typo or something like that, and they might accidentally report some income under somebody else's name. So it is possible. Or maybe you bought a product or service and you did, and then you get hit with 1099. So all of that stuff going to happen. So what I'm going to tell you is if you receive 1099, we need to properly account for it, even if it is wrong. Now, do you have to pay tax on it? Of course you do, right? If you receive a 1099, there's going to be a tax due if we don't do anything with it. But if we properly account for it, if we properly show IRS that we received the 1099, okay, this is a mistake, this is an income, this is a business income, this was my expense, this was my net profit. So if we properly account for it, then you don't have to pay tax on it. You're only going to pay tax on your income. Everything else can be adjusted, even mistakes. So that's why it's critical not to ignore the 1099s and take care of them. So I'm going to leave you with two things. Number one, if you paid somebody more than $600, you do need to think about issuing them 1099 if needed. I explained you all the requirements already. And then if you receive 1099, then please don't ignore that either. We need to properly account for it. Once again, the deadline for reporting 1099 NEC is January 31st. So I hope that answers some of your questions around that. I know it's kind of confusing. Oh, one more important thing. I think some of you guys might sell a lot of products on eBay or other places, and you might not get a 1099. So that's important to address as well. I'm glad I remember that because it's related to 1099. So this is what's going to happen. Let's say you've been selling some merchandise on eBay, maybe used merchandise, for example, and you made some income. Let's say you made $5,000 income, okay? Now, are you going to receive 1099 or not? Well, regardless whether you receive 1099 or not, it is your responsibility to report that income. So I want to make that absolutely clear. So it's not like if you don't get a 1099, you don't have to report the income. You got to report the income. That's important. But more importantly, the third-party organizations, they are getting some discount right now from IRS. So IRS is saying that we would like you to report if you paid anyone more than $600. Kind of like what we talked about earlier. And I'm talking about third-party apps like PayPal, Venmo, Airbnb, Lyft, these kind of people, right? These are the third-party apps or third-party organizations, whatever you want to call them. IRS would like them to report anything more than $600, just like they expect everybody else to do. However, IRS has been running into some problem where these people are complaining that it's just too difficult for them. It creates too much headache for them, too much work. They don't have a system in place to do all that kind of stuff. So basically IRS says, okay, tell you what, don't do it for small payments. Do it for anybody over 20,000. And this year in 2024, well, not meaning in this tax season, that number has dropped from 20,000 to 5,000. So let's say if you only sold only $4,000 on eBay, or you only earned $4,000 on Uber or Lyft, you might not get 1099. So it is possible. More than likely you won't. You will only get one if you made more than 5,000, but you should still report that income anyway, regardless of whether you got that 1099 or not. Next year, or actually, when you file the tax return in 2026 for 2025, that number will drop from 5,000 to 2,500. And in 2026, it will be leveled with everything else. It will be coming down to $600. So just wanted to bring that to your attention because it is possible that you did earn some income and you might not get 1099. In those cases, the responsibility for reporting that income is on you. How are you going to report that income? Of course, during your tax return. So let your tax professional know if you earned that money. Maybe somebody paid you cash, maybe they paid you in crypto, maybe they paid you through PayPal or something like that. Let your tax professional know that I earned this income so they can properly account for it. So I think, wow, that was a good discussion on 1099. I hope that answered a lot of your questions, but if I confuse you, then you can always reach out to me. And obviously, if you are doing your taxes, then we're going to talk to you about this stuff during tax time anyway. Once again, my name is Deepak and I'm a tax code advisor. I provide tax services nationwide. No matter where you are, if you need help with filing your taxes, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Just go to taxcodeadvisors.com, book a free 15-minute discovery call, or just request a code and I'll be happy to help. All right. Thank you so much for spending your last 15 minutes with me, and I will see you next time.